Welcome to Stories My Mother Told Me. The title of today's story is The Forbiddance of Twins. Once upon a time, there was a village in the middle of a dense forest named Cypress. Cypress was known for its picturesque landscapes, vibrant festivals, and a peculiar tradition that set it apart from other villages: the forbiddance of twins. Generations ago, the village had been plagued by a mysterious malady that struck the community on the day a set of twins were born. Fear and superstition gripped the Cypress villagers as they believed that the presence of the twins brought this misfortune. In an effort to protect their way of life, the elders of Cypress enacted a decree forbidding the birth of twins. The decree was strictly enforced, and families found to be expecting twins were faced with a difficult choice. They could either stick with the leaf Cypress to escape the stigma or face exile and the killing of the children if they choose to stay. As a result, the village had been twin-free for centuries. In Cypress, the elders were keepers of tradition, and the villagers lived their lives in accordance with their ancient rules. But as time passed, whispers of discontent began to circulate. Some young villagers questioned the validity of the old decree, challenging the superstitions that had long governed their lives. Camelia and Ben, two curious and adventurous siblings, were among those who dared to challenge the status quo. One day, Lilian, Camelia's and Ben's mother, went into labor, and everyone was waiting anxiously, praying for a safe delivery. After a few minutes, the cry of a baby was heard from the room, and everyone screamed for joy. In the midst of the excitement, another cry was heard: a second baby. The once joyful atmosphere became dead silent as everyone started leaving one after the other. Marcus, Lilian's husband, rushed into the room to see for himself. In a surprising turn of events, a pair of baby twins was born to the family, seemingly defying their long-standing decree. Immediately he saw the babies, he broke down in tears. Camelia and Ben also went in and saw their siblings. Instead of being saddened, they both jumped for joy. The midwives were surprised at their reaction, and they also left after cleaning the babies. The news spread like wildfire. The villagers witnessed the twins' arrival with a mixture of fear and curiosity. The elders, faced with the undeniable presence of twins, had no choice but to follow the tradition. They set a day for the babies to be banished. Lilian refused to touch the babies as she was left in self-denial. The whole week was a week of mourning for the entire family. No sound was heard from their house. The day finally arrived for the babies to be banished. The villagers gathered and the babies were wrapped and placed in a blanket. Lilian was asked to carry the basket on her head, and she was escorted to the river. She carefully placed the basket on the river and broke down in tears. Her husband took her away, and the babies floated on top of the water. While the villagers were leading the babies to the river, Camelia and Ben had a different plan. They waded in front and rescued the babies. Camelia held the kids while Ben paddled the canoe heading deep into the forest. From the day they knew the babies will be banished, Ben and Camelia had been working so hard, doing all they could to keep the babies alive. He constructed a small hut inside the forest, designed a platform where they would keep the babies. He made it extra warm and had been storing food from their farm. So they took the babies there and made up their mind to care for them by themselves. They fed the babies with boiled mashed potatoes and milk, and to their amazement and delight, the kids ate them all. They survived on these for the following days. Back in the village, Marcus and Lilian have been searching for their children. They've asked all their neighbors, but no one has seen them. Seeing how worried his wife is becoming, Marcus comforted her, saying that maybe the kids are having a hard time with the recent happenings and that they will return after a few days. In the forest, their food was running short, and it is now necessary for one of them to return to the village to get more supplies. They decided that Ben should be the one to go, while Camelia stayed back to watch the kids. When Ben got near the house, he hid behind a tree, waiting for the perfect time before he sneaked inside. When he eventually got the chance, he went through the back door and began gathering food. Lilian, who was sleeping, heard some noise from the kitchen, and she tiptoed there. She was delighted to see her son, but surprised at the same time that he's packing stuff as if to run away. Before she could ask any question, he grabbed her hands and ran outside with her. She kept asking what the matter was and where they were heading, but he said nothing. They got to the river and got on the boat. When they arrived at the hut, Lilian was flabbergasted at seeing all her children in one space. She ran to the twins, held them close to her heart, and began crying profusely. As soon as she regained her senses, she asked how they managed to keep the infants. They both narrated everything to her. She became afraid and turned to leave. However, as she was about leaving, the twins began crying. She couldn't bear to hear her beloved children cry. She ran back to them and fed them. Ben and Camelia were overjoyed. But as it was getting dark, she told them that she must hurry back home before their father discovers she is missing. She promised to return the next day, bringing more food. When she got home, her husband asked about her whereabouts, but she lied that she's been hanging around the river thinking about her children. Her husband reassured her that they will have other children. But Marcus couldn't help but notice her positive disposition. She was no longer downcast, and he became worried, thinking she's mentally unstable. The next day, after serving breakfast and her husband has left the house, she hurried back to the forest to see her kids. This time, she brought more provisions. She spent the whole day with them, breastfeeding the infants as much as she could. But when it was getting dark again, she hurried back home. However, to her dismay, Marcus was at home. He was fuming again, asking her where she's been all this while. And again, she told him the same story. As the days passed, Marcus became more and more suspicious of his wife. Then one day, he decided to go after his wife to see where she's going. He followed her from a distance until she got to the hut. He went in after her and was dumbfounded to see his entire family in one space. He couldn't figure out what was going on. Marcus at once flared up in rage. He immediately asked that they get rid of the kids, not to incur punishment. But seeing how adamant they all were, he made it clear to them that he will not be part of this. He stormed out angrily and returned home. Upon arrival, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about his whole family. On the one hand, he was thankful that the twins were alive, but on the other hand, he feared about the consequences of their actions. In the meantime, the villagers started gossiping about the disappearance of the family. First, the twins were banished. Then, the older children vanished. And now the mother of the house can no longer be seen around. People began to murmur. Marcus remained in the house for several days until he braved up and decided to go join his family in their hideout. He packed the much he could carry and waited till nightfall when everyone was indoors before he sneaked out. After traveling for some time, he arrived at the hut and hurriedly knocked on the door. Lilian and her children began trembling, thinking they've been caught. After several loud knocks, they finally opened the door and saw their father standing there in the boatload by his side. Their whole family rejoiced, and soon Ben told his father all that he went through just to keep the twins safe and how they've all been managing to survive on very little supplies. His father expressed how proud of them he was and apologized for his cowardice. He discussed with the whole family and suggested that they move to a neighboring village. What do you think happened next? This story will be continued. This is story my mother told me. Now, let's take a look at some words we've learned in this story. The first word is enacted. This word means to make into law. The second word is picturesque. It means visually attractive, especially in a pretty style. It was a picturesque occasion. The next word is peculiar. Peculiar. This word means different from the usual or normal. Different from the usual or normal. And we've got malady. This word means a disease or disorder of the animal body or human body. Then we have stigma. Stigma, it means a mark of shame or discredit. And the final word for today is status quo. Status quo. It means the existing state of affairs. Did you learn something new? Let us know in the comment section. So these are some of the words we picked from today's story. There are a lot more. If you enjoyed watching this video, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends as these help us grow. Thank you and see you in our next story. Bye!